And welcome back to another episode of You Like That Podcast. I'm Jackson.
This is Matt, and on this week's podcast, the NFL is heating back up again. It's getting near free agency time, so we'll be talking about some NFL updates from this week. We'll be doing our snake draft of our favorite logos in sports. Then we'll follow that up with some Timberwolves trade discussion updates and a wild discussion after coming off a big win against Vegas last night. And then we'll end it off as usual with our Twitter mailbag and go over some of the fan questions for this week. So let's get started. A lot of NFL news coming out today. Someone made a meme of Schefter just having three phones and tweeting out everything because it was fire after everything today. People getting franchise tag, people getting cut, people getting extended. But let's talk about some of the Vikings updates from this week. A few big moves have come out since our last podcast was released. The biggest one, Kyle Rudolph of 10 years playing for the Minnesota Vikings, tight end number one for us since that time. The Vikings finally released Kyle Rudolph, saved about 4 or 5 million in cap space, and it's just an end of an era. Rudy has been such a big part of the Vikings organization for quite some time now. Was this something you were expecting, or how did this Rudolph news make you feel?
Yeah, I think everybody kind of thought this was a possibility. And, we've been wanting this for a cut. I'd say we've been wanting it for, at least me, for about a year. I thought last year there was a chance that we could get something out of him. But after this last year, for the first time, or one of the few times in his career, he was dealing with injuries for most of the year, and just with his age and with his decline in a production, I don't think teams really wanted to trade, and they knew that a cut was a possibility. So this year, I definitely could see Kyle Rudolph being dismissed from the Minnesota Vikings. But yeah, he's been a big part of the Vikings organization over the last how many years he's been with us since we drafted him, and it's just rare to see an NFL player, especially at a tight end position, stay with a team for that long. Yeah, the Minnesota Vikings, they love to stick with their veteran players. Loyalty is a big thing for that ownership for the Wilfs, and he was such a great player. He was one of the best tight ends in the league for a couple years, and the decline, it sometimes isn't something that you can control. I mean, he lost his speed. If he didn't have much speed before, but he lost what speed he had, and he just got overthrown by the new form of tight end, and he was the prototype tight end when he was in the league. That big guy who can get in the end zone and catch anything that's thrown to him, catch over anybody, and he can block. And he couldn't keep up with this new almost wide receiver, enlarged wide receiver slot, inside slot, now that they call tight end. So Irv Smith has dethroned him, and that's what we thought would happen when Irv Smith was drafted, though.
Yeah, you definitely nailed it on the head by saying like he was the prototypical tight end when he came to league. It was more like your red zone big targets, your Jimmy Graham, who's decently semi-athletic, like Rudolph was too. He's got good hands, he can jump, but
They were power
it's
forwards in the
shifted.
end. Yeah.
Exactly. All the tight ends used to be high quality basketball players. It's kind of shifted to your Travis Kelsey type, Darren Waller type tight ends who are maybe not as thick, but are fast and can spread the field and are athletic threats along with receiving threats as well, and maybe not a blocking style tight end. But yeah, we've been advocating for a Kyle Rudolph getting released for quite some time now. The amount of speed jokes that we've made about Kyle Rudolph since we started this podcast is probably more than any joke that we've ever made. It's just we always just like to go off on Kyle Rudolph's speed. We can't do that anymore, but it was needed. We need the cap space. Kyle wasn't really producing at the level he was being paid, and I mean his not his apology obviously, but his goodbye to Minnesota was a thing of beauty for people who maybe weren't even Kyle Rudolph stands. But yeah, it was cool to see him say goodbye to Minnesota and say this will always be his home, and he appreciates everything this franchise has done for him. So uh,
Yeah. And
good luck to Rudy wherever he goes. It was an end of an era. It's time to move on, but I wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah, and he was a heck of a human. He is a heck of a human. Yeah, whether outside of football, whether it's charity or just giving back to the community. That's what he really founded his profession on, and that's going to be missed in the state of Minnesota. I'm sure he'll be back and he'll continue to be doing the Rudolph Fund. I think it's called. I believe I could be wrong, but yeah, just a great guy. Yeah, just wish him success if or when he goes anywhere. And yeah, we'll move on to some more Vikings news. Dan Bailey today has been released of his duties as the place kicker of the Minnesota Vikings. Had one of the worst seasons as a kicker in the NFL last year. I felt like at the beginning of the year we really didn't use him all that often, and then when we did, it it was not good, and it was disastrous
Not
many
go
games, and
well.
it costed a lot of games, and the Vikings struggled. And having a place kicker who is consistent and reliable is important to a winning team. So yeah, we got rid of Dan Bailey. The search for the next kicker begins. I know we have one under contract who we just signed. I'm not going to remember his name, but I think he was a
I
Bengal.
mean, it probably doesn't even matter to
Oh.
remember his name because he'll probably be gone in 3 months anyways.
Yeah, it just goes on. I mean, we'll never find a kicker. We'll sign someone like 1 year. We'll sign someone like Justin Tucker, and he'll be bad, and it'll keep
He'll
on
be
going.
bad. He'll
Yeah,
fall off. It's
and
just
yeah,
to the surprise of Vikings fans, most people expected Dan Bailey to be gone mid-season. He stuck along. People thought he was going to be cut immediately after that Buccaneers game where he missed 4 field goals. And then he lasted the rest of the season. And eventually now the Vikings end up cutting him. But his agent came out and tweeted, and apparently the Vikings were, according to his agent, I don't know if he's just trying to drum up interest for Dan Bailey now he's a free agent, but according to his agent, he said the Vikings were very interested in bringing him back on a restructured contract, and they just could not work out the exact numbers. So apparently the Vikings were interested in bringing him back. I don't know if there's a lot of truth to that or not. But cutting Dan Bailey saves 1.7 million in cap space for next season, which is some money to work with. Being over the cap right now, we need to make some cuts to be able to move forward financially. So Dan Bailey out the door, the next kicker, however bad he is, we're getting a new one. As much as we hate to see another kicker come through Minnesota, and it's just never ending. But Dan Bailey out of Minnesota, and the cuts hopefully will continue into next week with Shamar Stephen hopefully being the next one. He better be, or I might die. But moving to positive things, the Vikings signing someone. We're bringing back Stephen Weatherly, who was a rotational pass rusher for us for a few years. We got him either late in the draft or an undrafted free agent out of college. He played for us for around like 4 years
seventh
or so.
round.
Seventh round pick. There you go. He was a productive player for a seventh round pick. Last year, he left us and signed with the Panthers, got a decent sized deal. And the Panthers cut ties with him this offseason. And Weatherly is now signing with the Vikings, returning to us on I believe, 1 year deal. So we can add another rotational pass rusher to the roster. He's not a huge signing, but he definitely can be helpful considering pass rush was last season. So Weatherly back in Minnesota, assuming wearing his number 91 again.
Yeah, he is, and what a character he is, and he'll bring to the locker room. It's crazy to me. I don't know if it's just because we focus more on our own franchises, but it seems like Minnesota franchises just love bringing back guys who have been there before. And I mean, to say Weatherly had success with us, you could say that. I mean, we had a lot of team success when he was
He
here.
he had success for where he was drafted.
Yeah. He's a good kind of depth player.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, it's just I mean like the Ricky Rubios. If you go to Minnesota Wild, kind of like a Chris Stewart, brought him back a couple times. We just love bringing back guys who did something for us, and yeah, it's just another thing. I mean, the Vikings obviously did not want to get rid of him last year, but pay wise, probably didn't want to pay him as well. So they got him back. We'll see. It's probably going to be good, but I mean, there's trade talk always. I mean, there's many people available. We'll see what they do with the position, and we'll see where this Viking team goes from there. Anything else to say about that, or can we move on?
I think that's all we got for Vikings news. Otherwise, Joe Tooney was not franchise tagged by the Patriots today, so he's gonna be entering free agency. It's definitely gonna be someone that at least fans are targeting as an option for the Minnesota Vikings. But
Yeah.
the more guards on the
Well,
market, the better, because
yeah.
it drives down prices for them because of the so many guards. There's only so many teams that can pay guards. So
Yeah, and from an unverified source, there was interest in a trade with Geno Atkins for the Vikings, but again, unverified source. That's just a random
yeah, I mean
account
the
saying
amount
that.
of unverified sources that we've seen in the last few months is just absurd, and
Well,
everyone
looking,
just
yeah,
eats it up.
the thing about those, I mean, this certain account, it has had a lot of hits, but it has had a lot of
Is it
crap.
NFL? Is it NFL rumors or whatever?
I don't. I think it's something NFL. I thought it was NFL update, but it could be rumors. I know rumors does a lot of that too, but yeah, we'll see. I don't see
Rumors was
Vikings
the account
trading.
that had like the Keelan Cole interest too.
Okay, yeah, I don't see us trading for Geno Atkins. Just not. I don't see it. But we'll move right along. More NFL news, some major news out of the Dallas Cowboys organization. A Cowboys quarterback, Dak Prescott, got signed for 4 years, 160 million. A ton of whatever you call them, extraterrestrial, not extraterrestrial, extra stuff. It's just every year
Incentives.
there's something incentives. Thank you.
Extraterrestrial. Hey, some aliens. He's getting
Yes,
aliens with this
Dak
contract.
Prescott has aliens coming after him if he does not win the Super Bowl. 160, 126 million guaranteed. I'd have to look back at this. This was a record. I don't think it's the biggest contract in the sport right now, but it's something. I can't remember, but yeah, this it's major news. I mean, Dak, it was a story since last year when he broke his leg. That's a big contract to give to someone who, you didn't have a whole lot of team success with the kid. And then he breaks his leg in half and you sign him to this big of deal. He's a very talented player. But what are your thoughts about this deal?
Yeah, I mean, we've been following this Dak contract extension for 2+ years now. It's been ongoing, a standoff between Dak's agent against Jerry Jones. How much is Dak going to get paid? Dak wants to get a ton. Jerry doesn't want to pay him, and that went all the way up until last year. They franchise tagged him. Hopefully, figure something out. And people were mad that they didn't pay Dak then, and then he broke his leg. So people were really pissed at the Cowboys for not deciding and giving him the franchise tag. But eventually, I mean, Jerry must have caved at some point because Dak is now going to be making 40 million a year. So Dak Prescott, who has had, like you said, very little playoff success in his years as a Cowboy, even though he's been a statistically productive quarterback. He's getting the money, and this could be a terrible contract for the Cowboys. This could be a good contract, but the jury's still out on Dak. We don't really know if he's a star quarterback yet or if he's a mediocre quarterback. So if he ends up being a mediocre quarterback, this can be a really tough contract for the Cowboys to pay down the road. But Dak
Yeah.
finally got paid. It's what he's wanted, and we'll see. We'll see where the Cowboys go from here.
Yeah, he's always going to be that guy who's going to put up stats. I don't see that changing, especially with the weapons that Jerry will keep on giving to him because weapons sell tickets.
Yeah.
And you got a really good rookie receiver this year. He only spent half the season with, but in CD Lamb, he's got a bright future with him. So we'll see where the Cowboys go. They always have that team where it's like, man, that's a lot of star power, but it never develops because it's a bunch of players who, they're skill players, but they aren't team players usually. So
And they don't have any defense. Like all their
no,
money is
no,
spent on the offensive side of the ball, and especially now paying Dak.
yeah.
Their defense is going to continue to let up 30 plus points a game, which is in turn going to help Dak put up garbage time stats to look like he has gaudy numbers again. So,
Yeah, we'll see where the Cowboys will go from this. But yeah, we'll move along some NFC North news. Bears, Packers, Lions. But the Bears. Starting off with the Bears. The Bears franchise tag Allen Robinson. I'm surprised by this. But yeah, and then the Packers and Lions. Packers do not franchise tag Aaron Jones, and the Lions do not franchise tag Kenny Galladay. Let's start off with the Bears and Allen Robinson.
I audibly laughed out loud when I saw the notification that the Bears franchise tagged Allen Robinson, because Allen Robinson is not going to handle this well. Allen Robinson has made it clear all last season that he wants out of Chicago. He does not want to be there. He does not want to play with Mitchell Trubisky. He just hates it in Chicago, and he liked some tweets immediately after about people saying the franchise tag sucks, and like Kenny Galladay got lucky because he didn't get franchise tagged by his team. And I mean, the only reason I could think why the Bears would be this dumb to franchise tag Allen Robinson, because the man's probably going to want to force himself out now that they did this. The only reason I could think the Bears would do this is because they believe they have a realistic shot at bringing in Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. And that way, Allen Robinson will want to stay. I don't know why else they would have this belief that they can franchise tag Allen Robinson. He's not going to throw up a hissy fit. But yeah, so Bears franchise taking Allen Robinson. We'll see. We'll follow this story down the road and see if it gets ugly in Chicago, or if they can make another move to maybe keep Allen Robinson there.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. So if they don't get Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson, they're gonna have to target someone. I mean, I can't see them going after somebody in the draft. There's not going to be many quarterbacks there. I mean, they could go after like a Kyle Trask, but I mean,
You trade up maybe a little bit and get a Mac Jones.
yeah,
But
maybe.
other than that,
It's
none of those
it's the
players are
Bears,
players that
the
Allen Robinson would stay for. I think the only players that Allen Robinson will stay for would be Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson.
yeah, this is where the franchise tag has its flaws. Is when a player doesn't want to be there. It's just like it's kidnapping them, saying you have to play for us. You do get a boatload of money to be franchise tagged, but sometimes money is not the objective for some of these players. But yeah, it's weird. It's a weird to see a franchise just kind of do something like that when they know they don't really want to play there. But yeah, like you said, maybe they have a plan in place. Maybe they're pretty confident about getting one of those guys. But moving to the Packers news, not franchise tagging Aaron Jones. I mean, how does this affect the team? I mean, they didn't use him that much this year, and they had, you hate to say it, but they had a decent success on the offense, not using him very much. But how would you say this affects their team this year?
Yeah, I mean, Packers fans are like, the Packers fans I've seen on Twitter have been mad about this. I actually think this is a good move by the Packers front office, a rare good move by the Packers front office to not franchise tag Aaron Jones. They got quality backups to him. They have Jamal Williams, who's been a good backup for a couple of years, and people forget, they drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round last year. You don't draft a second round running back unless they're going to play a huge piece in your offense. And he had a big game at the end of the season there, ran for like 170 yards. So I think this is a great move by the Packers. I don't think that they should have paid Aaron Jones. Apparently, they're going to still go after him in free agency. They just didn't franchise tag him. I think that would be a mistake. I don't think that they need to spend money on the running back position right now. They have a lot of other needs at wide receiver or on defense that they can spend their money. But Packers not giving him the franchise tag is big, because Aaron Jones has been their lead back in quotation marks for a couple of years, and he might be on his way out, and it might be time for Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon in Green Bay next season.
Yeah, I agree. Aaron Jones is an excellent running back. I mean, he runs with power,
For sure.
with agility. He has speed to him. Some big fit. I mean, a big fit for him would be a lot of links to him would be Miami, and they're gonna have competition signing him if they want to go after him. They're gonna have to pay a decent amount of money to re-sign him. So we'll see where that situations. We'll continue to track that. But the Kenny Galladay thing, this surprised me. I know the Lions are a little stuck with money, but they're not in a spot to get rid of us a skilled wide receiver and
A young
losing.
one, at least. A
Yeah,
young one, too. He's like 23 years old.
yeah. I mean, he's a top wide receiver in the NFC North, and they also lost. I'm blanking on his name, but they lost Marvin Jones. They lost Marvin
He's
Jones as
also a
well.
free
So
agent. Just kidding.
this
He's
is gonna.
27 years old. So he's older than I thought he was. But still, he just got off his rookie deal.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It doesn't make much sense to me, but maybe I mean the thing about the franchise tag is sometimes the team just wants a little more time to reach a deal with the player. So we definitely could see, and I would not be surprised if we saw a deal. But what do you think about this?
I think he's gone. I actually think he's gone. There's been rumors of him like from the middle of the season on of Galladay just not returning to the Lions this year. I think the Lions are going into full tank mode. I really do. I think that they're getting rid of anyone that's worth anything on their roster, getting rid of big contracts, and they're going to lose. They're going to commit to losing for the next 2 years at least. Where they have Jared Goff under contract. They're going to build up draft capital, build up picks, get prospects in the door that have potential. And when the Jared Goff contract time comes up, they're going to put all these picks together and hopefully, in their case, make a decent roster because they haven't had one in forever, as long as I can remember. So the Lions, I think they're going committed to losing. I don't think Galladay returns because I really don't think he fits their timeline. By the time they'd be competitive again, he'd be, 30 plus years old. And maybe they don't want to pay someone that much when they're going to be this bad. So them not franchising Galladay, I think any other competitive team would have franchised Kenny Galladay, but the Lions chose not to. And I'm assuming that they're just going for full tank mode and just trying to rebuild their roster from nothing what it is right now.
Yeah, it's the thing that I think of is they just traded for Jared Goff. Obviously, the big trade was to get rid of was Stafford, but I mean they wanted Goff too. So if you want Goff and then want Goff to have success, you have to have something around him. And right now, looking, I mean, if you think about the roster, who's their number one receiver right now?
They don't
It's
have one because Galladay, obviously free agent now, Marvin Jones, free agent now, Danny Amendola, who is
he's
their
gone,
third wide
yeah.
receiver, also a
And
free agent. They've
the
got
the
Quintez Cephas,
I
I
think
think
he's
is
a
their
free
number
agent,
one
isn't he?
receiver. No, because he was, I think he was a fifth round pick or sixth round pick out of Wisconsin last year. So I believe he's
Oh,
still under contract for next season. But he had very limited snaps last year. So
he
him
was
being their number one receiver right now is hilarious.
yeah, and he was the really good receiver or the returner, right?
No, that was
That's what I'm thinking of.
because Cephas was the Wisconsin was he went to college at Wisconsin. I think he's a bigger guy. Um, I don't think he returned. No, you're thinking Jamal Agnew. Jamal
Yeah, I'm
Agnew is
thinking
the
Agnew.
returner that you're thinking of. Yep.
He's a free agent. Yeah,
So they're literally bringing
yeah.
back Quintez Cephas, and I think that's literally it. They've got no one else.
Yeah,
I think Mohamed Sanu is a free agent too. They brought in Mohamed Sanu at the end of the year, so they really have nothing
yeah,
at receiver.
yeah. I mean, it's a pretty decent receiver draft. But I can't see them picking a receiver with their pick. But maybe in the later rounds. But receivers
I mean,
are
they could go because they're picking what are they at 6 right now? I'm
yeah, I
not
think
sure the
so.
exact draft order, but there's some wide receivers that are projected to go in that range right now. That being Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle. So those guys have been projected to go top 10. So you could see the Lions go wide receiver. If I was them, I probably wouldn't go that direction. I'd probably start building in the trenches if you're going to try to build this team from scratch. But you never know. It's the Lions, so they'll always do something that makes everyone scratch their head. So I guess I can't predict what they're going to do.
Yeah. We'll move along. That's it for the NFL news. We'll move on to our snake draft this week. We're gonna do sports teams logos. This week Matt's gonna go first. It's just our favorite logos that we've ever came across of all time. So we'll put up the pictures on Twitter and on YouTube. We'll put up the pictures. The only time you're not gonna be able to see them is on the podcast.
Yeah, if you're just
But
listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify,
look it
just
up.
check out our Twitter page today, and you'll see them posted on there, so you can vote for who has the best list. And if you don't know exactly what logo we're talking about, you can see a visual of it, so you get a better understanding of what exactly that we picked. But I'll be picking first. I don't have a clear-cut number one on my list, which is tough because usually I do, and this week I picked first. So it's good when you have a clear-cut number one when you pick first. But for my number one pick, I'm gonna pick. Oh, dang! This is so hard. I love this logo. I don't know. I'm gonna pick the Brewers glove logo. I
Okay.
don't know if you know exactly what I'm talking
Yeah, I
about,
do.
but the
Yeah.
Brewers glove logo with the ball in there, I
Yep.
love the color scheme. I just love that logo. So I'm going the Brewers glove logo, retro glove logo as my number one pick.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. It's a classic. I'm at the same. I'm in the same boat as you. You know, there's not like a clear number one to me. But I think my favorite logo ever is probably the I don't really I think it's called Blasty. Really diehard hockey fans are gonna know this really only. But it's the Flame logo. It's the Calgary Flame logo with the horse on it. It's the horse. Its name is Blasty. It throws you back a little while. They wore it early 2000s. I know growing up as a kid, I'd go to Wild games
Oh,
and
that is sick.
they usually play the Flames and they had this logo. So that's definitely my number one favorite logo out there. I do like their C too, just their C Calgary on fire logo. But yeah, that's my number one. So number two, oh, this one's difficult for me. I'm gonna have to go. Maybe this is a homer pick, but I'm gonna go the old Minnesota North Stars logo.
Yeah, it's classic.
It is. I mean, it's one of the coolest. I don't know if it's just because we grew up in Minnesota. I obviously never watched the North Stars, but I don't know if it's just because we grew up. But it has the N and then the North Star on top of the N, and it's tragic that it got taken away from us. But
I mean,
I think
a
it's
fitting
awesome.
pick, considering the hat you're wearing right now,
And the
the
jersey
North
behind
Star
me.
hat and the jersey behind you. So I guess that makes quite a lot of sense. My second pick, I'm gonna go with the Notre Dame Fighting Leprechaun that goes like that.
Oh yes, that's a great
That
logo.
that is a sick logo, one of the coolest
Yes.
logos in college sports. That fits their very, very lame uniforms and helmets, but they have a
Oh
cool
my God,
fighting
they're horrible.
leprechaun logo. Yeah, those
Yeah.
those jerseys and helmets are probably one of the worst,
Have you ever
if not
seen
the
their
worst in
hockey
sports.
helmets? Have you seen
I
their
think
hockey
I saw a
jerseys
picture
helmets?
ago and they looked awful.
They're horrible. Absolutely horrible.
All right, so that's my second pick. I'm gonna got my third now, going snake draft style. I'm gonna pick. I mean, this is branching off my first pick from last week, but Wales. I'm gonna go Hartford Whalers.
Oh, that's a good one.
The Hartford Whalers whale tail on the top is just a beautiful sight to see. Maybe get some love on this list because it's a retro team, and I have a soft spot for retro teams and logo. So that's
Yeah,
probably how
and
it
they've
found its
worn
way
them
onto my
this year.
list.
That's their
And they have
retros.
worn them. So I'm gonna go Hartford Whalers as my third pick.
Okay. Let's see. My other pick. This one's I'm gonna leave that one for the last pick. I don't think you're gonna take that one, but this is a little bit of a stretch. It's maybe a little surprising for some people. I don't know if people maybe they love this, but the when the Panthers, the Florida Panthers, when they first be they first were in the NHL, they had the leaping uh panther, and I don't know if you've ever seen this. I think it's one of the coolest logos in sports today.
I'm gonna
I
look
think
it up right
it's
now.
on their reverse retros, I believe.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
a cool logo. Yeah,
yeah.
they had that logo not that long ago, right? Because I
No,
feel like I remember this
they just
logo.
recently changed to this one.
Oh yeah.
The
I didn't
more
even know they
kind
changed
of
to that.
I don't know how to explain it, but the Leaping Panther was so cool, and their jerseys back then were much better. But they're very cool jerseys now, though. But
Was that my first pick?
Making note of cool logos. The NFL logos suck.
Oh, they're bad.
They're so bad. I was looking at NFL logos. I'm like, these are the most basic logos that I've ever seen in my life. It was hard to even choose a good one because they were so bad.
I don't know if it's bad to say this anymore, but I think the Redskins logo was one of the best at the time.
Oh boy.
Well, I don't think that's bad to say. I mean, just the logo itself was so cool, just so original.
Now the Washington football team logo is
nothing.
it's just a W with a little slash on the top. They didn't even try with that logo. They literally just put a random font into Microsoft Word and typed a W and then made it yellow and put some red around it.
Yeah. All right, is that
you just picked
pick?
Leaping Panther there.
Yeah.
Next pick for you.
My next pick, another homer pick. I think this is one of the best logos in sports. I think this is a popular pick. I honestly do. The Minnesota Wild. I mean, it sounds bad because I'm a big Wild fan, but
you're 4 for 4 on hockey. Cool. You're 4 for 4 on hockey logos.
They have the best logos. Every other team. I have a list of all the teams. I mean, I have a few basketball I like too. MLB is boring. NFL, like you said, is boring. Hockey has some of the best logos.
I do not have one NFL team on my list.
No, I don't. I don't either. No. But yeah.
So Minnesota Wild. All right. He's got the Minnesota North Stars and the Minnesota Wild. Every rendition of a Minnesota hockey team logo. Yes, he's got.
They're the two best.
All right, I got 2 in a row here. I'm gonna take the Minnesota Twins Minnie and Paul logo. That they used to have back. Those guys shaking hands over the river. Yep. Cool logo. Obviously, if you can picture it, if you look into center field of Target Field, they've got the Minnie and Paul logo up there, which is pretty sweet. So that's gonna be my 4th pick, and then my last pick, I'm gonna go with the New England Patriots logo of the Patriots snapping the football.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm looking at that one right now.
Yes. The New England Patriots snapping the football. They bring out those jerseys every once in a while. They're throwback jerseys, and they're sweet.
I like their logo now too. Yeah, I like their logo now too. I think it's a cool logo.
That's my pick. I'll give you your last one.
Okay, so my last pick. This is really difficult. Probably my favorite logo. I there's a few I like, and there's a few I'm going to mention in the honorable mentions, but I really like the Milwaukee Bucks logo. I think it's a solid logo. It's unfortunate that it's Milwaukee, but
so that means did I pick a Wisconsin team? Yeah, I picked the Brewers. So we have 2 Wisconsin teams on our list, which is tough. But we have more Minnesota teams, so at least we beat them in that department.
The one I was really deciding about signing for probably was going to be my number 1, but I decided against it, was the Los Angeles Kings logo in 1980.
I have no idea what it looks like.
It's very simple.
I love those colors.
Cool. Yeah, they're so cool. I loved when they're purple jerseys. Obviously, I think they should have kept with those purple and gold. But that's our. Do you have any honorable mentions? I have a couple.
I have a few as well. At the Chicago Bulls, obviously got the bull with the blood on the tips of the horns, which is a pretty sweet logo.
That's an awesome logo.
The Boston Celtics one of like the leprechaun with the pipe in its mouth and the cane. Also a really cool retro one. Let's see. I have the Denver Nuggets rainbow logo. I don't know if you've seen like the rainbow Nuggets jerseys. Those ones are sweet. And those are my 3 honorable mentions.
Yeah, so I was gonna say I see. I wanted to say the Timberwolves, but I can't go 3 Minnesota sports. That's very biased. I think the Timberwolves have an awesome logo. It's just very original. It matches Minnesota with all those trees, but the Raptors have the NBA has good logos as well. Like you said, the Bulls is awesome. I think the Warriors is cool. The Lakers is original. Um, some other ones. The Pittsburgh Pirates I think have an awesome logo. The Mets have a cool logo. NHL, there's a lot of them that I like. You know, the Blue Jackets have an awesome one. Montreal Canadiens, Boston Bruins have an absolutely original, awesome logo. Um, I like the Sabres. You know, NFL, there's not much. I think the Vikings have a top logo in the NFL. The Chargers just have a lightning bolt. It's so bad. The
Yeah, they
Dolphins,
are.
old
All of them are
Dolphin
so
logo is
basic.
cool. Yeah. I mean, the Green Bay Packers is a G. That's their logo. It's a G. It's the
Yeah,
first
their
letter.
logo is potentially the worst in sports. It is so
Yeah.
terrible. I would argue that their jerseys are also one of the worst in sports.
I mean, the Titans have a cool one, but other than that, it's just
Yeah, the Titans is decent.
I like the Texans, but other than that, it's just very boring. The Lions, actually, I kind of like the Lions, but yeah, that's it for our snake draft. Tell us what we missed, and then vote for us as well. I won the last one pretty handily, I think, but
Yeah,
I haven't
you
won them in a
absolutely
while, so
destroyed me on the animal
I
list.
felt pretty good.
Apparently, fish caught the interest of the people and carried you to victory after you thought they
Everybody
were going to
loves
hate
fish.
on it.
Everybody loves fish. You can't hate on fish. But
There
you
you
had
go.
fish too. You just had the bigger fish.
I just had the bigger fish. Apparently not. Apparently, the Minnesota crowd gravitated towards the dogs and fish, which is understandable.
Yeah. We'll move on to some Timberwolves news. All-Star break right now. Not much to talk about, but there is a trade deadline in 2 weeks. What names have been linked? Seen a lot. But what are some that are more legit than others?
So the trade deadline is one of the days of the year that one of the few days of the year that brings Minnesota Timberwolves fans joy. It's usually the trade deadline and the NBA draft, two things that the Timberwolves can actually be involved in and get their name called in. So the trade deadline coming up in 2 weeks. The Wolves are rumored to have interest in a couple power forwards around the league. The names have been John Collins of the Atlanta Hawks, Aaron Gordon for the Magic, as well as Larry Nance for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Timberwolves fans are really getting their panties in a bunch for John Collins from Atlanta. He's a great player, but he's on the last year of his rookie deal. He wants a huge contract next year, but a lot of Wolves fans don't want to think about that huge contract and just think about John Collins and the big name coming to the Wolves. Whether that's a good move for the Wolves, I have my opinion. You can have yours, but he's been a name that the Wolves have really been linked to. Aaron Gordon, we've seen him, obviously most notably for Wolves fans in the dunk contest against Zach LaVine a few years back, one of the most memorable dunk contests of all time. Aaron Gordon is a decent player for the Atlanta Magic. He's not going to be a franchise changer, but not really anybody's going to be a franchise changer for a Timberwolves team that's worse than the league. So there's not really too much we can do to catapult ourselves into contention race. And then Larry Nance, who I'd rank him. John Collins would be the high tier guy. Aaron Gordon would be your middle tier trade guy, and Larry
Oh,
So Larry Nance from the Cavs is a
lost you
guy
for a
that
bit.
I saw that you froze there. And Larry Nance from the Cavs is a guy that could really make an impact, or he wouldn't make a huge impact, but he'd be a solid player for the Wolves and maybe a piece down the road. So those three names that have been linked to the Wolves, all of them good, mediocre, not so great, respectively, but the Timberwolves have been rumored to be pretty active at the deadline, so we might see we might see a move or two in the coming weeks, and we'll bring some. If that happens, we'll bring some. I have a little bit different perspective on the Wolves than a lot of people, so I'll bring you my perspective on the moves that we make and how the Timberwolves' future looks going forward. So that's all we got for Wolves news. Obviously, we're on the All-Star break, so it's a pretty slow week for Timberwolves fans. We'll get started back up in a few days. We move on to the Wild, who have actually been playing as of recently, not on any break. We had their break a few weeks back during the COVID break, but uh, some big news for the NHL just came out today. The NHL signed a 7-year contract with ESPN. So ESPN is going to have some broadcasting rights, going to televise some NHL games, potentially have some NHL shows on their network. Which is something that we haven't seen in quite some time. ESPN again. This is big news for hockey. How do you think that this is going to propel hockey and make it maybe a sport that people are more engaged in down the road?
Yeah, so like you said, it's going to bring shows on the ESPN network about the NHL, and it's where a lot of people, people who just tune into some sports networks, it's probably ESPN, and that's where the NBA has blossomed, and MLB, you could say it's been a little more popular, but uh, you know, having it on like NBC was great. It's incredible at what they do, but not everybody tunes in randomly just to NBC, see what's going on. A lot of people tune into a lot of people, their first sport network is ESPN to tune in. It's probably the most popular. And this is big, a big step for the NHL, who's struggled to be a top dog in the viewership for many years now. And so having these opportunities with ESPN, and it brings many more opportunities and jobs for people who want to get into the NHL. And they have people connected to ESPN who haven't been able to be with the NHL. A name that comes to mind, I had it before this, but I can't think of it right now. But they have they have the big names who have been. I think it was the Orioles play-by-play guy, but he has been in the NHL and he's been excellent. So it's just they have these guys who haven't been able to be with the NHL, and now they're able to. And so it's a big opportunity for the NHL. The NHL seems to, when they get a step in the right direction, they seem to take a step in the wrong direction most of the time. So we'll see how this pans out. I think it's really good for the NHL. It's a great step, like I said.
Yeah, you've been obviously very critical of NHL's marketing and how they market their sport to fans, not generating a lot of interest with the potential that they have with their players and the league and how competitive it is now. Obviously, this is a step in the right direction for the NHL. Hopefully, ESPN can catapult them to the next level as a league, because for those of us that enjoy the NHL, it's obviously a slept on league, and it's not maybe as popular in other states as it is in the Midwest, Minnesota. So if we can grow it throughout the United States, that'd be huge. And ESPN is going to be a huge part in helping hockey grow as a sport. But moving into some wild stuff the last week, Zach Parise, obviously Minnesota's golden boy, you could say, scratched. He was scratched for the first time in his career the other night. Do you think that Dean Evison made the right call in scratching him, and why exactly did he scratch him from that game?
So, I mean, Dean Evanson's not the kind of guy who just come on and say anything. I don't think he said much about it. He just said the effort needs to be there for everybody, no matter who you are, something like that. But it was pretty obviously a big reason why was because the game before against Vegas, have a 3-goal lead, then have a 2-goal lead, and then it goes down to 1. They have the empty net. He stayed on the ice extra long. He went by the bench multiple times, had an opportunity to change, didn't, and ended up that line giving up a goal. I mean, it's an exhausted line, and they make mistakes, and it's 4-4. We lose in overtime. He was benched the next game, but this has not been a good year for Zach Parise. His point totals have been down. He's 35. It's looking like it's the down it's the down stretch for Zachary Parise's career, and we still have years left on his deal. So it's been leading up to this, I think, and that was just the end marker for Dean to just give him a break. He didn't settle well with him. It was his first time. He said he was trying to get Marcus Foligno a hat trick. He asked Marcus in between periods, have you ever had a hat trick? And Marcus had two at the time, and he said no. So he tried to get Marcus Foligno, his line mate, his buddy, a hat trick, which is a kind gesture. You're up by one goal in a very important division game against probably the best team in the league. It's not a time to try to get guys hat tricks on open nets. I mean, it's a time to get fresh bodies out there, and it was a mistake. And he's a vet. He's a 11-year or so vet. So it lit a torch under him. They beat the snot out of the Coyotes the next night, and obviously lost the next. But they played very well the next night, and I think Parise's looked a lot better. I mean, he obviously isn't scoring again. I don't think we're going to see that this year, but he's looked much better in the games prior to that. So, or in the games after that, excuse me. So, I think this is it was a thing that's going to be beneficial down the road. I mean, you as a coach, as an NHL coach, it shows that no matter who you are, you could get benched for your efforts. So,
Yeah, it's definitely weird to see a player like the name Zach Parise get benched, but it also happens. Like, yeah, if you don't put that effort forward, if you're trying to get someone a hat trick when the game's still within reach from the other team, it's probably not the right move to make at the time. But moving on to an impressive rookie, and it's not the one you'd be expecting. It's Kaapo Kähkönen, he's playing extremely well for the Minnesota Wild. His first career shutout last night against Vegas. How does this affect Kähkönen's playing time going forward and his timeshare with Cam Talbot?
so this is interesting. A big trend in the NHL is the duo goalie, the 1-2 punch goaltender. The Dallas Stars rode that to a Stanley Cup final, and they found that hot goalie, Ben Bishop and Antoine Khudobin, split time throughout the whole year. It was successful. They both had great years. Then Anton Khudobin was I can't remember, but I think Ben Bishop was a little hurt in the playoffs, but Anton Khudobin got hot. That team rolled that hot streak with that goaltender. You don't win Stanley Cups with a bad goalie. You need a goalie who's hot to win Stanley Cups or make it to the final, and that's what happened. And they didn't win it, but they were very successful that year and got to the final with that hot goaltending. So I think it's a really good thing that we have Cam Talbot, who will come in. He'll make the saves he needs to. He's been excellent this year as well. And then you have Kaapo Kähkönen, who, I mean, he's Nick Backstrom if I've ever seen Nick Backstrom. He talks like him. He looks like him. Looks like him on the ice, plays like him. So all he does is win. He has a 7-game win streak. All he does is win. And sometimes it's weird, but obviously goalies don't score, but it's weird. Sometimes goaltenders, they're winning goaltenders. Whether it's they find ways to win just by stopping big time shots, like he did last night. They find ways to win. Sometimes the team has more confidence behind them when they have him in net. And that's not saying Talbot doesn't bring the team confidence. It's just, I mean, Kähkönen, he's just won. He's just a winning goaltender. And he's got a bright future in a guy who almost was looked at as a backup maybe this year. I actually looked at him maybe a taxi squad guy if Stalock was there. But Kähkönen been excellent. You can see just how good he is night in, night out. And I'm very excited for this young goaltender for the rest of his career. But yeah, it's been excellent. I think having two strong goaltenders is important, especially from a team whose their issue has been goaltenders the last few years.
And it's really good to see. We have two of the best rookies in the NHL right now, Kirill Kaprizov and Kaapo Kähkönen, which is always an exciting thing for a franchise, especially a franchise that's so starved for success in Minnesota. Trade deadline, obviously, we talked about the NBA one, but the NHL one is also coming up. It's about a month away. April 12th is the deadline. Is there anything that Wild fans should look for the upcoming trade deadline? I know we have a need at center. Do you think that they'll be pursuing any specific names in mind, or do you think that they'll even be active at the deadline?
Yeah, Billy Guerin will always be active when there's a player that he wants. He's going to try as hard as he can to get. That was evident when Ottawa, Derek Stepan, he tried to get him, but they asked for too much. And Stepan actually ended up getting injured, I think, for the whole year. But it's going to be an interesting deadline. I think we've talked about this in the past. It's just a weird one. You have to quarantine for a long time. So it's going to be weird. Some names I would throw out there that I see fit with the Wild. I mean, some like our Ryan Nugent Hopkins. He's playing wing this year though, and he's having a ton of success. So I can't see him wanting to go back to center. But maybe. I mean, that's a name. I mean, someone like Sam Bennett, I know I'm probably the only one who would really want to see Sam Bennett in a Wild jersey. I think he's a playoff guy. He's not going to be the number one. That's the only thing. And we need a number one center, but for a year, just for a year guy, and then we have him for the depth. But I mean, he's going to get paid. He's a first round pick. He's going to get paid a decent amount. So Sam Bennett's a name out there. One that's interesting to me, someone who I really want back, I could say, is Eric Stahl. Eric Stahl, we trade him for Marcus Johansson. Johansson has not been good. Eric Stahl has not been good. Buffalo's just bad. They're trying to trade everybody. Taylor Hall, Jack Eichel is going to want out soon. I think Eric Stahl is a realistic trade bait for the Minnesota Wild. He'd be that number one center rental for this year, who we desperately need on the power play. I mean, we have power play. It seems like we lose every draw. It's a big issue with the power play right now is that not having that center depth. And that's why we've seen like Zach Parise being center on the power play. We just need decent players to be on that power play with Fiala and Kaprizov. So I think Eric Stahl would be an excellent get. I don't know if he'd be wanting to come back. He said he'd be welcome to go join a contender. So whatever you consider us, I guess, but I don't see the Wild being super active other than trying to get a center. So if there's a center available that we could get, that's who Bill Guerin's going to want to go out and get. I mean, we've talked about Eric Stahl. I think Jordan Stahl is another player who is another possible get for the Minnesota Wild, but it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm not 100% who or if the Wild will be active in the trade. I mean, there's a lot of names. I'm looking at lists right now, and you got big names on the list. So like Jack Eichel, obviously, I don't think he's going to get traded this year until off season. But another name is Mikael Granlund. He's an available trade option for the Wild. I mean, another reunion, but it's going to be interesting. I know Bill Guerin's in a very aggressive GM, so if he wants somebody, he's going to go get him. So it's going to be very fun. And I'm excited for that date to come.
It's definitely better to have an active GM than a GM that just sits on their ass and lets things work out as they may.
Yeah.
So at least we have that. That in Minnesota, and unlike Green Bay and their Packers fans taking my shots at the Green Bay front office here. But moving on, Wild. Last thing on the Wild, we're 23 games into a 56 game season, so we're almost halfway. We're third in our division right now, playing a couple less games than the teams ahead of us. How have we looked so far, and do you see the Wild surging in the second half of the year?
Yeah, so an interesting thing is something the NHL has added to their standings boards is winning percentage, and we're second in the division in winning in point percentage. So we're second in the division. There is a theory out there that the NHL might go off of point percentage for the playoffs,
assuming teams don't play the same amount of games.
Exactly, and there's a good chance that happens. So if you look at the Wild right now, they're second in the division, a very top heavy but good division in point percentage. So I think it's been an excellent year. The other thing is you need that center. So I think the year can be improved, and a good chance that, let's say, a name like Matt Boldy, when Boston College gets done with their season, Matt Boldy could come into the Minnesota Wild system. He could be that number 3 center or number 2. So the Wild have a very interesting situation here. This year, they've had an excellent season. I think this has been one of the better starts. I know it's not the best start. I mean, we've had some really good starts with the Minnesota Wild, but just how the Wild play. They haven't played like this since they've had Gabrick and had that skill player, but now they have two players who are extremely skilled and just flashy players. The Wild have not ever had this. They're an exciting team to watch, and people are watching them. It's a year. It's definitely a more encouraging year. We have the goaltending. I'm very excited for the end of the season with this Wild, assuming they keep it up. But midway through the season, I'd give this year a B plus. I mean, you're not gonna. The power play is the worst in the league. It's flat out the worst in the league. We've had 5 power play goals. It's the worst percentage. You can't win without power play in the playoffs. So we need to get a player who can win. If we want to win this year, we have to get a player who's going to be your number one center on that power play and improve it. You have players like Kevin Fiala and Kaprizov, and we have a horrible power play. You don't hear of that. So the Wild, they're looking good right now, 14-8-1, but their point percentage of .630. The Vegas Golden Knights are probably the best team in the league, so they are going to lead this division. I don't see them losing that number one the whole year. So, I think this is a very exciting Wild team. It's the first exciting Wild team we've had in a long time, so I'm very excited. But that's enough about the Wild. We'll move on to our last segment of the day. Not a whole lot of questions this week. We had a later podcast, so I don't blame them. But our Twitter mailbag. We'll start out with sports. Nick Haddle is our only sports questionnaire. He asked, "Who is your favorite non-starter on the Vikings?"
Oh, favorite non-starter on the Vikes. That's a tough one. Gosh. If I had to go favorite non-starter, I'm probably, man, this is a lot harder than I expected it to be. I'm gonna go Mike Boone.
God dang it.
I like Mike Boone. Obviously, he's going to be a free agent this offseason, so we don't know if he will be returning to Minnesota. But a guy that's been just doing it at running back number 3 for us for quite a few years. Mike Boone has been a great back, and he's beloved by all Vikings fans. So I'm going to go Mike Boone, the king of the preseason.
Yeah, that was mine too. He just plays hard and so fast for being a third string. He doesn't look like a third
special teams too.
I mean, you know you're a good depth guy when teams are calling in to trade for you, and the Vikings don't even listen to him. But since that was yours, I'll go with my second choice, Tyler Conklin. This is a guy. Here's Chris Collinsworth. This is a guy who started to be. He was more of a 3-4 guy. Who's that blocking tight end? I don't know if he was injured last year, but
David Morgan.
Yes, he was that 3-4 guy. He was that 4 guy behind David Morgan. He comes in last year. Kyle Rudolph is hurt. He looks great. I mean, he doesn't drop a ball. He looks fast out there.
That's why they call him Gronklin.
Routes. Gronklin. I mean, he gets the name Gronklin after like 3 games of actually playing in his whole career. So, well, he's played more, but yeah, I'd go Tyler Conklin. I think he's number 2 going into this. It's his job to lose as the number 2 tight end going into this year.
He's definitely going to be an exciting player to watch, and we all wish success for Gronklin because well, he's just Gronklin. Who could not cheer for someone with the nickname Gronklin?
Exactly.
So that'll do it. That's our non-starter, favorite non-starter for Vikings. Moving to miscellaneous. First question from Hunter this week: if you could make one animal as big as an elephant and one animal as small as a mouse, what would you choose?
Do you have an idea?
He always has the most difficult questions to think through that I really don't have an answer for, because none of it's really gonna affect me. I thought for animal that's big, I thought a horse, because imagine that would be cool. Wars back then when they fought them on horses. Imagine these people riding elephants. Obviously, you can't train elephants, but if horses were as big as elephants, I mean, that'd be pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, I would say I don't know. I mean, this is so hard. A big animal or a small animal that would be cool to see bigger could maybe be like a dog, I guess. That'd be kind of cool to have a giant like Rudolph. Like what's not Rudolph? Who's that? Who's that really
Clifford.
big dog? Clifford, the big red dog.
Rudolph the big red dog.
Talking about aliens, and now I'm talking about Rudolph, and I'm talking about dogs. But a little animal or a big animal, I'd rather see little. I'd say something like a wolf. I guess that's kind of counter intuitive to what I just said,
Dog.
but
Wolf.
a wolf. I would not. I'd be much less intimidated by a wolf if it was the size of a mouse.
Trying to think. For me, it's just a threat thing. So
Yeah,
if
that's
I
what I'm
could make
thinking
something
about.
really small, I would make snakes as small as they could possibly be. I know,
They're
obviously in
already like
Minnesota,
super small.
we don't have big snakes, but if you're talking about like pythons and anacondas and
I
these
suppose,
scary
yeah.
ass snakes of South America and down south, man, those things are one of the scariest things on the planet. So if I could minimize snakes to a tiny size, I would easily do that. I
Last
mean,
week we
there's
had a
snakes that like eat entire like deer.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
horrifying.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's it for that question. Hunter, ask again. If you could meet one professional athlete, who would it be?
Zion Williamson, because he's my best friend. He doesn't know that he's my best friend, but he's my best friend. He's the coolest dude on the planet. Every time he talks, I can't help but have the biggest smile on my face. So I would say Zion Williamson.
Yeah, yeah, he's funny, but I'd say Brian Robinson. Obviously, he's my favorite Viking, but he's just a dude.
Just a
He's
dude.
just a dude, and he obviously fishing. It'd be a dream to go fishing with him. He's a professional, but he's just a dude, and it'd be awesome to sit and just talk with him about
Yeah,
anything.
he'd definitely be a guy that you could very easily just chill with and go fishing, which is
Yes,
right up your alley. So
trying as hard
that
as I
makes a
can to
lot
get
of
him on the
sense.
podcast. So
B Rob, come on the pod. You're
yes,
definitely not hearing this, but come on the pod, B Rob. Everyone
yes.
tweeted him to come on the You Like That
What is
podcast.
this question?
Yeah, so Grant's on with the next question. Probably, sorry, Grant, but one of the worst questions that we've ever been asked on this podcast. He's going straight out of the interview book and asking the first question asked in every single interview ever conducted. Tell me a little bit about yourself. So, Jackson, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I'm Jackson. Jackson Boline. Grew up in Wadena, Minnesota. Moved to Alexandria, Minnesota, early in my lifetime. I grew up. I went to school here. I played a little hockey. Had a little success playing hockey. Then quit hockey. Now talk about hockey. Now I go to school at Bemidji. Went to NDSU. Didn't like it. Went to Bemidji. I really like it. I work, at a radio station. I work at a vineyard. I do a little podcasting. Watch a lot of hockey. Watch a lot of football. Soon to be watching a lot of baseball. And that's myself.
Potentially the most interesting man on the planet, right there, if I had to say so myself. A little bit about myself. My name is Matt Fogel. I was not born in Wadena, Minnesota. I was born in Alexandria, Minnesota. So I have not moved. I'm currently in college at the University of Minnesota Duluth, home of the Bulldogs. Really good at hockey. If you've ever heard of them, they're pretty good. I love sports. I do a little podcasting like Jackson does, as you know. I work for the UMD athletic department. What else about me? You can follow me on Twitter at Real Matt Vogel for some quality tweets. Um, I'm really short, pretty unathletic, so I can't actually play sports. So I have to talk about them
Tennis.
because I play tennis. That's what I'm limited to at my size and athletic ability. Uh, I play a lot of Xbox. I play some Warzone. If you guys ever play Warzone and want to link up, hit me up on the Xbox. Yeah, that's about it. That's a little bit about myself.
Yeah, so if you guys were
That's
ever
what I got.
wondering,
If you guys ever cared about the most irrelevant parts of our lives that literally 0% of people care about, there you go.
yeah, absolutely. Is there anything weird about you? Let's make this a little more interesting. Anything weird, not weird, anything original that you've ever done with your life?
Original?
Yeah, like what's your coolest thing you've ever done?
Oh God, coolest thing I've ever done.
Well, you went to
I
like
don't know.
Europe, didn't you? Or where'd you go?
I did go to Germany
There you
in
go.
in
That's
high
pretty cool.
school, so I guess that's pretty cool. Um, oh, I was at the Minneapolis Miracle game,
There you go.
also
That's a
pretty cool. So
great
that
fact.
those are some cool things that I've done.
Yes. Cool. What would be a cool thing I've ever done? I haven't done very many cool things in my life.
Hockey tournament, high school hockey tournament.
I did a little couple things there. Probably the coolest thing is I know an off ice official for the Wild and got to just tour the press box, and it's probably the
You got
coolest
to
thing.
announce starting lineups for Bemidji hockey.
Yes, I am the PA guy for Bemidji women's hockey.
So if you ever want to hear Jackson pronounce some names that are difficult to pronounce, just tune
Yes,
into Bemidji women's hockey.
it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. There are some odd names in college hockey.
All right, those are some cool things about yourself. Last question here from Garbage Time Sports. What is your dream place to live?
Okay, so this is a very difficult. I really like where I'm living now. You go first. I'll think about it.
Hawaii.
Okay.
I hate cold weather so much. I'm not a cold weather person. I don't do anything in the winter because it's freezing out. So I'm a warm weather guy, somewhere where it's always nice. Hawaii. Great, great ocean all around you. It's super warm out, super nice out every day. It's not super muggy like it is in Florida. Uh it's just a cool vibes place down in Hawaii. So if you're going for the tropical feel, Hawaii it would be the place where I would want to live.
Yeah. See, I'm the complete opposite. I mean, I don't love winter. That's the only thing. I hate
I
snow.
hate it. I hate
I
it.
don't like snow. I don't mind the cold. I like the cold. Okay, I'm gonna define what I would want, and you're gonna tell me where this is because I don't have an
All
idea.
right. All right.
A place I've always wanted to go is Nashville. I don't know how good it is though. I've always heard good things about it. So that's a place I've always wanted to go and live. Colorado is also. I'm going there in a couple days actually, but I love Colorado. But okay, so here we go. So I need a winter, but it can't have snow or be
Oh
like extra
boy.
cold. So probably 40s be the low.
All right.
Summers are hot, but not too hot. No beaches. Hate beaches.
All right.
I need lakes all over, freshwater lakes.
Oh boy. I'm not a geography expert. Here, I think I have something in mind for you.
I was thinking
Um,
Oklahoma or something, but I don't know
I'm
how good
thinking,
Oklahoma is.
and I don't know how many lakes they have there, but looking here, it looks like there's a decent amount. I think you could live in Tennessee. And maybe not in
That's
Nashville.
probably maybe
Maybe
that's where
not
it
in
is. See, I
Nashville
hate
just because
cities.
it's Nashville's more of a touristy area.
Yeah,
But Tennessee also has the Smoky Mountains. Like that, you're getting a little bit of Colorado there too.
and the music. I
you
love
got
country
the
music.
there
That's
you go. You love the
Tennessee.
country movies. So if you need to go to the bars or country music, you
The honky
drive over to
tonks.
Nashville.
Yeah.
You listen to your honky tonk, whatever the heck you listen to,
Well, a
and
honky
you
tonk
could.
is a bar, but
Well, it's a bar. I don't know. I don't know my bars or my music. So honky tonk is apparently a bar.
it might be
But you live in
Tennessee.
Tennessee. You got mountains. You got country music. It looks like there's lakes here. I don't know how great the fishing is, but
Well, it's south.
I
They have good
think
fresh water.
it's south. They don't really have snow. I don't think so. I think Tennessee would maybe be the place for you.
You know, Tennessee or Minnesota. I really like
I don't know if you
Minnesota.
listen to Bussin' with the Boys with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton. They absolutely love living in Tennessee. So
See, that's what I've heard. Whenever listening to like podcasts or people who've been to like Tennessee or Nashville, it's their favorite place to go. So that's a place I want to go maybe when I'm graduated just to visit. But yeah, I'm sure Tennessee. Tennessee is my dream place. All I need to
we
be happy is
decided where
fresh
Jackson's
water.
gonna live.
Yes, fresh water, good sports, and no snow.
Good sports and no snow. But you'll never have good sports because you'll always be a Minnesota fan. So
That's true. Very true.
so you could cross that one off the list as something that's never gonna happen.
Yeah, I'll never be
That'll-
happy in sports wise, but yeah,
That'll wrap
that's
it up
yeah.
for
That's
this week's
it.
podcast. We went through NFL updates, snake draft of our logos, our Wild and Timberwolves discussion, and ended with our mailbag. We appreciate the questions. We want more of them. We love answering the questions. So the more we have, the better. We can tell you a little bit about ourselves. Maybe not specifically about ourselves, but things that we like.
Tell you
and
what I
different-
had for breakfast and what I
different
had for dinner.
hypothetical questions you have. If you want to know what Jackson had for breakfast, you can ask that question too. So we appreciate everyone. Coming back to you next week. We'll have the Timberwolves starting back up again. Free agency is starting soon for the NFL, so get ready for a crazy offseason and some NFL draft stuff too. So we're excited going forward. Come out with some more podcast every week. So thank you everyone, and we appreciate the support.
Yeah, and talk to you next week. And as always,
You like that?